These guns, accessories, and gunsmiths. Yeah. Doc Neely's gun shop. Oh. And then we have halls and auditoriums, the Grange, right? Unity in the Olympics. Oh. We went through the gun licenses, didn't we? We got every gun permit and all the accessories. You remember when there was a shortage of bullets about, 3, 4 years ago? Yeah. And, well, it was back when Ray was the general, isn't that right, General Smiley? Pooch. Somebody was issuing gun licenses or gun permits without really looking at the backgrounds of those that had an actual gun. Yeah. I'd like to know the location of every gun shop in the United States. Now, I had an experience of watching one of these pawn shop shows. Yeah. I think it was in Las Vegas, and they had called in a specialist to find out something about guns and whether or not they could sell them or have them, and seemed to conflict with what I'd seen in pawn shops where they could purchase guns or make loans on them, however you want to say it. Uh, but I wanted all the guns out of the pawn shops and back in the gun shops. Yes. Now, could you give me 20 miles down the actual internet provider of every gun shop? Sure. And then all gun permits and gun licenses, it does take a signature to get a gun license to be able to own a gun. It seems that courts don't require the signature of a petitioner. Do you have to sign to be able to have an abortion, or can you do that anonymously? Can you purchase a gun from any gun shop without a gun license? And can pawn shops sell any guns? I went into a pawn shop downtown one day and I was kind of thinking about my deceased father, Paul Douglas Budnick, the one-legged biker that's been dead for 25, 30 years. And I had made mention while looking at a shotgun that if I was to saw it off, I could, well, my father told me some things about what could be considered criminal. Well, the guy approached me and said, "Well, I'm sorry, you can't hold that anymore." And I thought, "Oh, you can't talk about sawed-off shotguns in a pawn shop." I would just tell him that's what my father had told me. Seems like somebody's been trying to kill off my family since my decency. Is there some money that I'm missing that the sheriff's department? Am I missing a gun or two? I had heard that my grandfather, Edward Budnick, worked in the United States Treasury. That I'm missing some documentation from the United States federal government that does give me the legal right to put a bullet in the brains of any corrupt sheriff. Understand? Now, I'd like to speak to my sons because I'd like to speak to my attorneys. But if I find out that I actually do have the legal authority of the United States Treasury to have killed any person that obstructs the Treasury, I know where I'm going to put some bullets. Does the sheriff understand? Now, I heard that my grandfather, Edward Budnick, that had lived in Yuma, Arizona, actually did have a type of like occupation in the United States Treasury, and every once in a while I'd see one of those reptile pooch, a fish in the family. Pow! Now in the 70s they just used to shoot them, pooch. But you decide to clone them and then fuck the population and then mutate the pop. Well, as that founding father, generational father. I just wanted the sheriffs to know that if I find out that you're intentionally keeping from me documentation that allows me to have you killed because you decided to dog yourselves, pooch, I will shoot myself. Sheriff, it used to be. in the United States Treasury that they did know about the family for the last couple 100 years. You remember King George and the problems we had? And the family's top secret lizard in the ass. What? My grandfather was a big nosed Pollock that really wouldn't put up with any of those in the family. He really wouldn't. He used to have a rifle in the back of his pickup truck. He'd see one fucking fish, he'd kill him. Immediate death. Now, you thought that they were so important, but the truth is they've been around for a very long time. Atlantis. So I'm going to want any documentation that could prove that I have certain rights as an employee of the United States Treasury to kill anything that is not a human being. Ooh. Then I'm going to want a very large handgun. And then for any sheriff or undersheriff, Ron, that thought that fucking your family so you could come to find out was more important than the U.S. Treasury, I will personally kill you. Kill. Now, as I prefaced, that would only be under the authority of the United States Treasury. If I'm wrong, it's not because of delusion. It's because you're obstructing my use of attorneys so as to sue you. Now, I know that I would never, ever harm one of those in law enforcement if I didn't have the authority of the Treasury, Pooch. But if I do, I'm going to make sure you're dead. Dead. Now, I want my 5 sons. You understand? And I want to know what the United States Treasury knows about Edward Budnick. And as his grandson, are there some documents that the United States military hasn't given me? Because they did know that if I have the authority of the Treasury, I will kill every fish and every person that decided their fish was more important than the Treasury. Did you have to dog yourself?